Hello, this is Mr. White. I'm going to show you how to use Aristotle's rhetorical triangle, which is a simple tool that you can use to analyze any art, whether it be a song, an essay, a speech, really doesn't matter. These are basically three things you have to consider. Each of these things is a point on the triangle. And I'm going to go pretty fast, so don't forget, this is a video. You can stop, you can pause it, you can rewind it, watch it over if you need to. Um, but let's take a look at the triangle first. And pretty simple. We have a triangle which has three corners. Each corner is going to be an important aspect of your analysis. So we always want to consider the author. Um, what can we know about the author or infer based on their work? What clues do we have looking at the artwork about the author? And you just put some notes down. That's it. Okay. We do the same thing for the audience. What specific audience is the author trying to reach? That's kind of the question we're after for audience. Who is the audience supposed to be? And then we also have the third corner of a triangle is the subject. What is it about? Okay, if it's an essay, what is the topic? If it's a photograph, what is the subject of the photograph? What is the artwork about? And once you have some notes on those three corners, then we can take the next step and start looking in between. So let's first start off with the three. So author, we have an image here. This is a famous image, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown. This is called Into the Jaws of Death. It was taken on June the 6th, 1944, which is the Second World War. And the photographer's name is Robert F. Sargent. So in this case, with photography, the photographer is going to be the author. And then this took place Omaha Beach in France, which is in Normandy, France, is the name of the place. So let's go with what we know. Who's the author? The author is Robert F. Sargent. Okay, and we can't really tell much else other than his name. So for now, we're just trying to focus on these 3 points. So the audience. Who is the audience? The audience to this, who would benefit from seeing this? Let's go ahead and skip over the audience now because you can do these in any order. It might be easier to get back to the audience. So what is the subject? This is the U.S. military, probably the Army, could be Marines. Normandy was a huge operation, involved all the services. So U.S., I'm going to just say troops landing in German occupied Normandy. So the Germans invaded, they took over France. And Normandy is like a region in France. And we came in to try to liberate and free them. So U.S. troops landing in German occupied Normandy. So what we can do now, let's start looking at, this is where it gets kind of interesting. With our triangle, we have the author, and then let's take any 2 corners, author and subject, and we can start looking in between the 2 and try to make some connections. So what do we know about Robert F. Sargent's connection with U.S. troops landing? Well, we know that he was there, he was with them, because he's taking a photograph. He's on the boat that they just left. So start looking between the 2 corners. You can put some little notes here like sergeants. In the military, often it's called embedded. You're embedded with a unit. It means that you're with a unit. Sergeant, I'll just put was with the troops. So he's experiencing what they're experiencing. His life is in danger as well. Now, what does that do, him being there? If we want to think about that for a minute, we might realize, oh, wow, it gives him credibility. It makes him very trustworthy. The fact that he wasn't just a photographer, he was a photographer in a war. Uh, he was there doing the crazy uh, up close photography. So he was putting his own life at risk. So that gives him a lot of credibility. Okay, let's go here and look at between the audience and the author. So we have this guy. Uh, we don't even know just from the name if he's an American. Um, but his audience, oh, we never did. Let's go back and kind of do the audience now. So we know it's Normandy. We know that we're sending our U.S. troops in to try to help free the French and defeat the Germans. We know that Robert F. Sargent is a photographer that's embedded with this unit, or maybe he's a soldier who just happened to have a camera. We don't actually know, but he's there. So that gives him a lot of credibility. So who is this picture for? Who is our likely audience? Who are we going to send this to? Who's going to benefit from seeing this picture? Right off the bat, I think of the family members of the soldiers. They would definitely want to know. And then when you realize, well, yeah, but wouldn't all Americans be interested to see what our guys are doing? A lot of these are young men who left home months ago. They went to training. They had to go to basic training, infantry school, whatever schools they had to go to, and then they're shipped overseas in ships, literally. Uh, and now they're actually storming the beaches. So people want to know. So I'm going to say American citizens. So family members of the soldiers, American citizens are going to be interested. Maybe French citizens because they're being occupied by Germans. I don't know if the picture is really for them because I don't even know if they would be able to see it. It's not like we could just show them. TV is very new at this point. Wasn't really in households much until the 50s. But mainly people at this point in time are communicating through newspapers. So if they could get it into a newspaper that got smuggled into France, maybe the French could see it and have hope that the Americans are coming. But that's not a likely scenario since all their information is being controlled by the Germans. So family members of the soldiers, American citizens. I'm going to leave the audience at that. Okay, so now let's take a look at the author is Robert F. Sargent. The audience is family members of the soldiers and American citizens. He might be a soldier himself. What's I kind of when you think about the author and the audience and the connection, um, this comes back to what I already said about his credibility here. They would trust him because he's there with them. So if you're a family member and you see this photograph, you know that it's coming from the actual front, from the front lines. So yeah, that credibility would be big between the author and the audience. Let's go between the audience, family members and all, and war, the subject. What are some connections between those two? So on this kind of line between the two corners, I'm going to make a little midpoint and just put some little notes here. Americans are worried about war. They're sending their sons and fathers off. So yeah, so if the subject is the war against the Germans, the audience is family members and American citizens. Between those 2 points, we have Americans are worried about the war. What's the relationship between the subject and the author? Again, he's with the troops. That gives him, he's actually with the troops. He's in the war. Um, that gives him credibility with the audience, the family members back home. And what do we know about the family members? They're worried about the war. Okay, now, um, what else can we say about the subject? When I say subject, I don't want you to think it's just the war itself. It's the picture itself too, okay? Um, what is he showing us in this picture? So yeah, U.S. troops landing in Germany, but this particular photo of U.S. troops landing in Germany, what are the feelings it creates? What is he trying to get across to us? One thing I notice is we don't really see much of the enemy. No visible enemy. It's almost like a mysterious. You have smoke. We don't know if the smoke is from the ships, from gunfire, or just mist. We can't really tell. It just adds more mystery to it all. This here, if you look in the background, you see this line. That's actually a bluff, or kind of like a cliff. Maybe not a sheer cliff, but a real steep bluff. That was one of the big obstacles in Normandy, is that once you got across the beach, you had to climb, and it was easy for the enemy to put pillboxes in defensive locations up high, just aimed down onto the beach. So it made it extremely dangerous. You can see right here, this is actually a bunker. It looks like it could be a piece of tank or some kind of vehicle that's been brought up, but my guess would be that that's probably a bunker of some sort. You can also see a lot of what are called tank traps. These are just big welded bars thrown on the ground that make it hard for vehicles to move through. And there's probably tons of barbed wire. So although there's no visible enemy, the scene looks dangerous. It looks ominous. The fact that all the men are facing away, heading into that mist, just makes it look like something bad is going to happen. They're leaving the protection of the ship, and now they're out in the open and vulnerable. Look at the clouds. The clouds just look ominous. Ominous just means danger is on the way. Something bad is going to happen. I'm going to put very ominous. Okay, so now we get to the purpose. For the purpose, we want to ask, what is the author, in this case a photographer, want the audience to think about the subject, the invasion, the storming of Normandy beaches? What does he want us to feel about the subject? And what does he want us to do about the subject? And I think because it's so ominous in tone, because it looks no real action yet, we don't see anyone shooting or anyone being shot. We don't have casualties that we can tell. Maybe there are some up here, but we can't really see. It's like this is before things really go bad. It's kind of the moment that it looks like. So I think because he knows the audience is largely going to be Americans and family members, people who care about these soldiers, sergeants wants Americans, I might say citizens, wants American citizens to reflect on the courage, because the fact that these men are moving away from safety toward this misty unknown takes a lot of courage. And because we know that war is not a pleasant thing and that there are going to be casualties and sacrifices, Sargent wants American citizens to reflect on the courage and sacrifice of U.S. troops. Okay, so what you want to do for the purpose, put it all together and try to come up with a statement. So again, starting off, you're going to put basic notes about the author, the audience, the subject of the picture itself, and then also try to look between the points. What is the relationship between the author and the subject? That often gives you more information. What is the relationship between the audience and the author? That gives you a little more information. What is the relationship between the audience and the subject? Americans are concerned about the war. Their family members are being sent across. Oop, I'm off screen, sorry. So that's pretty much it. So again, I went pretty fast. I want you to go through, write what I write for the example, and then you're going to end up doing your own on a different photograph. That's it for now.